Hey guys, this is Sandeep from RevAtlas and welcome back to yet another video. And today we'll be doing the first impressions of this Redmi Note 10. Before we get this started, please do make sure to hit the subscribe button and also turn on notifications to avoid missing any videos from us in the future. Now let's begin. So I'd like to start by talking about the fact that this is actually an A-roll video, and that's because we are really short on time and I didn't have time to actually prepare a full B-roll first impression video for you guys. So I thought it's better to still have some video come out with good information than have no video at all and just go directly to the review. So a lot of people generally wait for a review to make an informed decision on whether to purchase something or not. So this time I thought, why not give a first impression video, especially when the device is as special as this, or like the Note 10 series that Redmi has announced. Now this is the basic version, the Redmi Note 10, and they also announced the Redmi Note 10 Pro and the Note 10 Pro Max, and we have made a video on the Note 10 Pro Max, which you can also watch if you're interested in the Note 10 Pro, because the only difference on both the devices is practically the camera itself. And in this particular device there's a whole different set of differences, and it's a entirely new device, and this is still one of the best in the segment, and in this video I'll explain why. So I'll start off by talking about the biggest change, or at least what I find is the biggest change, and that is basically the display itself. So if you look here, we have an always on display, and what that means is that this basically has an AMOLED panel, and for the first time ever we have an AMOLED display on a Redmi Note series device. And this is the basic or starter to the Redmi Note series, and this also has an AMOLED panel, and it's quite similar to the other ones in terms of the overall specifications. This too gets fairly bright, actually very bright in fact, compared to most of the competition. But compared to the Note 10 Pro and Note 10 Pro Max, this is a slightly less bright display, you can say. So this basically has a peak brightness of 1200 nits. So if you put it all the way here, this is the peak brightness right now. Of course, so far I've been testing it out in the open under direct sunlight, and it's perfectly legible. And the only slight complaint I have is that it's a bit more reflective in terms of the glass that's used here. This is Corning Gorilla Glass 3 up front, while you have Gorilla Glass 5 on the Pro and Pro Max, and it's slightly more reflective compared to the other two models. But other than that, it's still a beautiful display, slightly more bezels as well, but it's still a great display considering that this starts at a price point of rupees 11,999, and that's before any card offer or exchange offer of that sort, because you get an instant discount of around 1,500 rupees up to 1,500 rupees with ICICI cards. But overall the display is beautiful, and although we have seen, for example, with the Mi A3 itself, an AMOLED display that was a lower resolution, this basically is a full HD display, an AMOLED display, and although the refresh rate is 60 Hz, there's nothing that's actually better in this price segment, because either you get a full HD display, but then it'll usually be IPS. But even now in 2021 or the latter half of 2020, we have even started seeing smartphones come with 720p screens in this particular segment. So leave aside the fact that this is an AMOLED panel, but even without that, this is a full HD panel, which itself is a step above most of the other competitors in this particular segment. And you also have an in-display camera cutout, which is a 13 megapixel unit, and this comes with MIUI 12 out of the box and Android 11, but this will be one of the first devices to get updated to Android MIUI 12.5 as well. And this comes in two different variants. One is a 6+128, which retails at a price of rupees 13,999, and the other, which is the base storage variant, that retails at 11,999 with 4+64 GB. And this is the first smartphone in India to be powered by a Snapdragon 678 chipset. Overall performance so far seems pretty snappy, and I know it's not a 120 Hz display, but I don't really see any issues in terms of the overall the performance, and in terms of the screen itself. I find it to be very smooth, in fact, for a smartphone in this particular price segment. As I mentioned earlier, the overall brightness is great, the contrast is excellent, and you have good sunlight legibility, and the overall sharpness is also perfectly on point. Now, in terms of the design itself, this is something that Xiaomi is calling evolved design, so it's quite similar to what you would find on the Mi 11, for example. They have this new sort of a camera module going on here, and it's very similar to the Note 10 Pro and Note 10 Pro Max, but it's a single stage. So you can see that the camera module is a single step above and is raised from the rest of the body, while on the Note 10 Pro and Pro Max, you basically have two steps. So first you have the outer thing, which is in a single step, and then you have this, which is further raised because of the larger sensor and the space that it occupies. Now this is a 48 megapixel primary camera. It's an IMX586, which is still one very capable sensor, and especially if you get a Gcam port, for example, and considering this comes with Snapdragon out of the box, you should be able to get very good photos out of it. And I had taken some samples so far, and I find it to be quite good in terms of the overall performance, especially in low light situations, and even the ultra wide angle camera, which is an 8 megapixel unit, is also pretty good. And you also get two 2 megapixel sensors, one of which is a depth sensor and the other is a macro camera. Now inside this is actually a 5000 mAh battery, and compared to the previous generation device, this is actually around 20 grams lighter and 0.6 millimeter thinner, but they still managed to pack the same massive 5000 mAh battery as well. And you also get improved charging time. So the charging limit, or the maximum charging speed in this, is 33 watt compared to the 18 watt that you had in the previous generation. You have a USB 3.5mm audio jack here, and you also get stereo speakers. So if you look, there's a speaker grill at the top here. You have the IR blaster, which is a rarity in these days, but glad to see that Xiaomi is still bundling it on their smartphones. And you also have a fingerprint scanner on the side, which is actually very fast compared to some of the previous fingerprint scanners that we have tried. And it's also slightly bit raised over here compared to the Note 9 series, for example, which was a bit more flushed or recessed into the casing. This is protruding out just a bit more, but if you can see, and it's actually having a different sort of texture compared to the volume key, so you'll still be able to identify which one is which without even looking. And in terms of the back panel, this is now plastic, but at the same time, what they've done, which I feel is a very good choice, is the fact that they've actually used a frosted sort of design at the back instead of actually going for a glossy finish, which would of course attract more fingerprints and would also give way for more scratches to come on easily. Now overall, the handling is very good. Like I said, it's lighter, so it does not really feel like a phone with 5000 mAh battery. It feels very light, very effortless to handle, and the in-hand feel is also good. The build quality is good, and I feel that this is probably the underdog in this particular series. Although the Note 10 Pro Max will get most of the attention, the Note 10 and the Note 10 Pro also deserve special praise, considering that the features and the specification and the overall experience that you get at this particular price point can't really be matched by any other smartphone. So I would say that, you know, since the Note 7 Pro, perhaps this is perhaps the biggest leap in terms of the overall feature set that Xiaomi has brought to the table, because of course the Note 5 Pro was the first which brought in a huge difference, especially in terms of cameras. Then you had the Note 7 Pro, which again took the cameras to the next level, along with a brand new design and, you know, a less industrial looking design for that matter. And this now brings AMOLED to the table, which was one of the missing ingredients, I would say, on a Xiaomi phone. While they do make some great IPS panels as well on certain phones, like the Mi 10T Pro, for example, it had a great IPS panel. At the end of the day, especially in the mid-range segment, we do see that generally the AMOLED displays do perform a bit better. And I quite like the fact that, you know, Xiaomi is listening quite a lot to the users, which is why they're bringing AMOLED, as well as, you know, a slimmer profile and having lighter weight phones. And basically every single user feedback or even expert feedback that I could think of that was passed on for the Note 9 series, including the regular one, the Pro and the Pro Max, I feel that they have incorporated into the Note 10 series, and so far I find this to be really good value for money. Now I wait for the full review before passing the final judgment, but I would say that this is one smartphone that people could definitely buy, is an easy recommend as well. But stay tuned for a full review, camera review, etc., which should come out once the embargo lifts. But that's it for this video, guys. If you have any questions, do let us know in the comment section below. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button. See you again in the next one, and thanks for watching.